From the frequency, we can detect what disease you're going to have. Not only the disease you have, certain frequencies for cancer, heart problems, diabetes, mental illness. Schizophrenia is different than bipolar. So this is a whole new wonderful world we're moving in today.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Beljanski Cancer Talk Show. Today we're thrilled to welcome Brian Clement, a leader who spent over 50 years at the forefront of natural health. As the director of Hippocrates Wellness, the world's leading center of holistic healing, he's transformed the lives of thousands with a unique approach to disease prevention and vitality. Through his work, Dr. Clement has uncovered what it really takes to live longer and healthier, and he's here to share insights that just might change the way you think about your health for good.
Dr. Clement, thank you for doing this with us today. I really appreciate that you take the time to join us on the Beljanski Cancer Talk Show because I know you are so busy running the Hippocrates Wellness Center. For those who don't know what the Hippocrates Wellness Center, I have been there a few months ago. I would describe it as a bubble suspended in time where you are sheltered from all the pressure of life. You are fed 3 times a day with clean, organic, vegetarian food. You receive the best treatments. You receive all the visit with integrative doctors that can help you. And it feels like a vacation with a purpose. And I have to say that the people that I met over there were glowing, happy to give themselves the time they needed for their body to heal naturally. And it was an experience both physical and spiritual. How are you okay with that description first?
I think it's lovely. Thank you so much.
Okay. How did you get to create such a unique center, I believe, anywhere in America and maybe probably in the world?
I was very fortunate because at a young age, I was not even 20, I had an awakening. The awakening was that I couldn't remain on the Western lifestyle. I was severely overweight, smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, a typical young male, angry at the world. And I radically shifted my diet and the way I perceived reality. And that was in 1969 in the summer. And by 1970, I was already doing my very first talk on this. Now, remember, I didn't know much, but I knew more than the audience, which was very small. And it grew from there. I was at universities, got out, and then wanted to know the most important thing. Who has the most experience? Who has the greatest results in all of North America? And it was Hippocrates. Back in 1956, we were founded in Boston, and it was because our founder, Ann Wigmore, had healed stage 4 cancer. And after Harvard doctors told her she had 30 days to 60 days to 90 days to live. And so she said, if this happened to me, after arguably the best doctors in the United States and some in the world told me I'm going to die, I better teach other people they don't have to die. So in the early days from 1956 till the 80s, I would say that the vast majority of people that came to us in Boston and then here, when I moved it, had very advanced disease, mostly cancer. That's what we're known for. Today we have an advanced Alzheimer's program that works, and Parkinson's and mindfulness programs. And healthy people has come here to maintain health vitality. My newest book that's coming out in the next few days is called Quantum Human. We're talking about how to live in the world that we now are entering into, that's unfamiliar to everybody, in a healthy and a sane way. And so I was blessed. And to really put it all in perspective, in 1978, I was in Stockholm, Sweden, lecturing, and here was this beautiful woman, looked at her and said, "Ooh la la." And she was running Europe's most famous center for inflammation. And in Sweden, uniquely, the government at that point sponsored natural health care. They didn't fight with you. They actually, if you were a Swedish citizen, you'd go gratis to a place like this. And we got together, and in 1980, Anna Marie and I assumed the directorship after I had been in Europe 3.5 years. And so she brings a very historic European approach to all of this too. And as I spend a month to 3 months every year in Europe, much time in your country of France and England and Romania and Holland and Denmark and all over the place, Germany. And I've been fortunate to meet some of over the 54 years I've done this, meet some of the founders and the leaders in this, and we've learned from one another. And so on this campus here, we try to make available the methods that have been proven that are absolutely working on every single level. And it's hard to find this anywhere in the world. Either they're spas or they're just medical centers. We try to include it all so that 80% of our guests return. So if they come with the disease and they recover, they often come back just for holidays here after that. We create a resort setting, not a cold hospital poked with needles.
Yeah. You mentioned your upcoming book is
Human.
Quantum Human. Can you elaborate on the meaning of the title?
Yes. So what has come to my awareness in the recent years, maybe the last 5, is that we are going to go through the most transformational time that our species, have ever had on the planet Earth. And up until now, let's rapidly go through. We were first nomads. We lived completely off the planet. We didn't have jobs. We didn't have credit cards. We didn't have any annoyances. And we just moved from the south to the north and north to the south. And that was about 65% of the time we were on Earth. So our evolutionary body and mind is built for that. Then we got a little insecure and we went into the agrarian time. So we put fences up and we said, oh, we own this land, and we stopped eating a wide variety of food. And now we started to hoard things and limit the way we saw the planet. And so when we put our own fences up, before you know it, we established communities, we established countries, we established armies to protect the countries, and humanity started to falter. Then I'll never forget, back in the 1970s and early 80s, somebody said, we're going into the information age. And I said, you mean to tell me that people are going to be able to sell information and that's going to be an economy? And they said, yes. I said, that sounds like nonsense to me. And guess what? We went into the information age. But the age we're going into today, rather than the AI age, I'd rather call it the age of consciousness. And we're going to go one of two ways. And this is absolute. There's no question about this. Either we're going to let this destroy the human spirit and race itself, or we're going to realize that the smartest one in the room now is not a human. The smartest one in the room is a computer that has its own consciousness. And I see that as a liberation, because if you, by the way, look at what that can do, it can bring you back to our origins, where we spend 65% of our time, where we weren't dependent upon constantly stressing and working and all of these things. We can let our brains go into a larger silo of knowledge and wisdom and access it whenever we wish, and then get about life doing the things that make us passionate. And I think why most people are sick today, they haven't found that. They haven't found their passion. They haven't found their love. So they're angry at the world. And if you would say, what is the one way that people all get sick from every disease? I'm talking about it now. So I see this as an opportune time, wonderful time. And so that's what that book is about. It gives a daily program and a weekly and a monthly program. And here's how you live in this world. And here's how you can accelerate your lifespan. And here's how you don't have to suffer from cancers and heart disease and all of these other things that we brought upon ourselves because we left the earth hundreds, thousands of years ago, and we feel insecure. Let go of that today.
It's a philosophical book as well as a health book, I would say.
Oh
No?
yes, it is. We have all science reference. What conventional scientists will say that this isn't science. What I say to them, they don't read the right science. So there's nothing I ever write, by the way, that's not advanced science. So this is about quantum biology, quantum physics, and the field of quantum physics started more than a century ago with Max Planck over in Europe. And he was talking about this. And then Einstein was part of that process. And we went beyond Newtonian physics into that. And then somewhere along the way in the 1950s, they started to realize that the human brain and all brains of animals are programmed into quantum physics. And that actually a bird, this is a beautiful, wonderful story. They finally figured this out about 15 years ago. A bird migrates sometimes 10,000 miles without ever stopping flying. Can you imagine this? And they go the exact same route every single year.
Yeah.
So now they found their eye is in program with a very subtle frequency that's covering, it's a network that's covering the globe. It's an energy field. And they are tuned into that. Now, like it or not, you and I are tuned into it, but we're tuned out on this. We always talk about Tesla. He found a way to put different devices in the earth itself and generate free energy. That was a subtle energy that's there. And so we've gone beyond today's physics and chemistry and biology to a whole new level. And that's what we use here in our energy medicine department, a frequency medicine, because you're made of frequency. Every part of you is frequency. It comes from photonic energy from the sun. So it's not only from what you eat, but where you are in your environment. And we are now taking the shell off that and utilizing this beneficially for longevity, health, and happiness for people.
Yeah, being in harmony with the vibration of the universe and what is surrounding you. Yeah, absolutely.
So in the book,
And
we have the different frequencies, what they cause, different words, vowels, and what they do to change your psyche. And we have physical evidence of this. This isn't as we bleed this. It's not mystical. We actually, when you say a particular vowel word, an O or an E, it means certain things. And it resonates, and you see the changes in the brain with this. And it elevates the nervous system to activate the immune system. Inversely, if I'm yelling and screaming at you, saying slanderous things, you shut down the brain and the immune system no longer is functional. We're like this living electromagnetic amoeba that's connected to everything else. And we're explaining this and showing the hardcore science on this. It's no longer something we think about, it's something we know.
But this is particularly already not very always easy to grasp. So I assume it's even more difficult to put into practice for people who are enthralled after they read your book and say, how can you help them to put that into practice?
Yeah, well, there's everything from manual work where it's contemplation, meditation, prayer, to units like we're using QRS units here that alter states of consciousness, Russian technology that alter pain. In like almost every case, you take this little handheld device and pain goes away within minutes. Some of these people have endured because remember that when you go back, it's hard to grasp, but it's easy to understand because we've been trained in thinking what is real, what you don't see isn't real. And my first leap into this direction, I was talking to a friend of mine who was teaching at Harvard, and he was teaching both law and philosophy there. He said to me, have you seen love? I said, oh, yes, I've seen love. Well, he said, you're lying. You've never seen love. And I kept arguing and saying, yes, I've seen love. And he said, no, show me you've seen love. And I finally realized I'd never seen it. I felt it.
Mhm.
So there's a perfect example how simple it is to understand. Now, if I can put loving frequencies, currents within your body your cells, your immune function, your neurological system. We're actually going to now take away blockages that are like dams on a river. And these blockages in biology, we would call tumors, we would call clots, we would call this. And we don't think that this work. If you can get yourself into a certain mindset and use these frequency medicine units, advanced energy medicine is what we call it, you actually see the dissolving of these blockages, these walls, these dams in the river. And we see the end result is if we go back for conventional diagnostic work, people are better. And why we fail so much with cancer, something you and I both have a deep love for, and we know how easy it is to reverse compared to the mainstream way of thinking, is because they see it as this. I don't see it as this. A tumor is something they say, oh, let's cut it out, voila, it's finished. No, it's a joke. Where did the tumor come from? Why is the blockage generated? So if we now unravel that, it's like taking little pieces of energy and taking them apart. And you actually no longer can empower the tumor to metastasize and to grow. And your father's work, by the way, with herbs, plants are one of the greatest way to motivate this. You have to understand, plants have their own energy field. I have many photographs in this book of the energy field of different plants. And I learned a lot about that from my colleague, now she's since passed, at 98 she did. She was the top professor teaching at UCLA, Dr. Valerie Hunt. And she was a biophysicist back in the 1940s. And she was actually the woman who created the uniform for the men that went to the moon. And it was really a funny story. She said to NASA when they called her, because she was the only one that could do this. And she said, I'll do it, but you've got to create a machine that detects frequencies 10 times lower than we can today. They said, no, we can't do it. She said, I can't make the outfit. A week later, they called back. A year later, they had the unit. So she was checking these subtle frequencies. And we now know that from the frequency, we can detect what disease you're going to have. It's not only the disease you have, but for frequency, certain frequencies for cancer, kind of cancer, heart problems, certain frequencies for diabetes, mental illness. And schizophrenia is different than bipolar. So this is a whole new wonderful world we're moving in today. But the problem is the big monsters are in the room with their money, and they don't want this to, because this is going to be a safe, easy way to displace disorder.
I can't wait. You are going to explain that at the conference. You are coming to the upcoming Beljanski Integrative Conference in Texas in April 25 to 2027. We are very much honored to have you and delighted, and can't wait how I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. We'll do Quantum Human specially for all the folks in Texas.
That's the purpose of the 2025 Beljanski Integrative Cancer Conference, a meeting of the world's top minds in complementary, alternative, natural, and integrative cancer solutions. The proceeds go towards funding cutting-edge cancer research, delving into a brand new area of science concerning cancer stem cells, which could hold the secret to ending cancer once and for all.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. You have a program which it is so unique, Hippocrates. I would like to go back to that. When you walk into this wellness center / retreat, it's a lush tropical garden, and it's all about getting back to nature. How is nature important actually to what you are doing? Because you are speaking to us of right now of something quite sophisticated, quite immaterial. We are now speaking of vibration.
Yes.
How does that integrate with the very, I would say, material, putting your feet in the grass and feeling earth?
There was a wonderful priest hundreds of years ago in Germany, and he was a monk, and his name was Father Knipe, Knipp. And he was completely in tune with what you're saying. So he said, in the morning when the dew, now remember, where does energy move more than anywhere else? In water. He says, so when the dew's on the grass from the nighttime, that has moon energy as well as sun energy in it on the grass, you take your feet off and it's therapeutic. You go up the stream, you go up the river with the rocks without the shoes. Today we call this reflexology. He was talking about this hundreds of years ago. Back in the 60s, because I always loved nature so much, they would call us tree huggers. But today, even mainstream medical doctors in Japan write descriptions for what they call forest bathing. I don't know if you know this, but medical doctors in the country of Japan, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling weird, will write a prescription and say you must walk in the forest 30 minutes or 1 hour, twice, 3 times a week. And the insurance has to pay that time. You're off doing it. So these frequencies are not only humans and animals, these frequencies are from that. So the ambiance is a wonderful French word I love. The ambiance, some of us like to be at the top of the mountain. We love the ambiance or the energy there, close to the sun, above the alpine, where it's bare and just maybe snow there, and this sparkling light. That's a different energy than in the alpine. I happen to love the ocean. Whenever I feel I need a refuge, I go on the ocean and I'm there. The photons, the energy from the ocean, which is a big, giant, unified water mass. Remember, there's not all these oceans. They never teach you well in school. There's one ocean. We call the Indian Ocean, the Pacific. It's all connected. And by the way, those oceans are connected to every river, and those rivers are connected to every pond. And so we have this, it's the bloodstream of the planet. And these are giving frequencies. Now, man has done a really good job in destroying those frequencies. You put cell towers up. That completely wipes out the frequencies and gives you abnormal frequencies, so you end up with tumors and neurological problems, and even mental concerns come from this. Inversely, what you're saying, nature has always been there. We were always part of nature. Remember, we were walking with bare feet, most of the time mostly nude, on grass, on soil, on the earth. Everything was organic. It's only been recently. There was a funny story. There was a man who retired at 65, and he had a very successful business, and he liked Arizona. So he went out there and he never took his shoes off because he wore suits all the time and he had fancy shoes on. And he says, yeah, I'm going to try to walk with bare feet. He always felt anxious. He always felt very anxious. And he now feels totally different. So he's inquisitive, and he goes to friends of his at the University of New Mexico. And they said, oh, you're grounding yourself. He said, what the hell is that? No doctor's ever told me what grounding is. He said, yeah. And I talk about it, but as I'm sitting here talking to you, my shoes have rubber soles. I'm not grounded.
Yeah.
Now, as bad as leather is to a vegan, leathers, you are still grounded, but you're not with rubber, and you're not on cement. Remember, even when we were agrarian, our grandparents and great-grandparents were farmers. We were walking on the earth. All of our clothes, my clothes, are all natural fiber. Do you realize if you're wearing polyester and nylon, it's actually not only putting estrogen into your body, but blocking biofrequency fields? And so there's so much to think about, but it's simple. It's like kindergarten level thinking. And once you drop away from what you've been told is normal, and you start to allow your heart to be normal and your consciousness to rise, you all at once say, of course, this makes complete sense to me. You know?
When people spend a few weeks in Hippocrates, it's also the opportunity to learn a lot. You have many speakers who are really empowering your guests with a lot of education from a lot of topics, and that's one of the things actually the guests love. They're sponges for everything you are teaching them. Can you describe a little bit what to expect for people who have listened to this podcast and would be interested in coming down to Hippocrates, what to expect from the
I'll give it to you. None of this is university level academic, but you're being taught by university academics. Our medical director here is MIT, Harvard, and Cambridge. I'm to give you an example, but when he goes into a room, we don't talk like that. We talk so you understand it, that everyone understands it. So you'll have medical classes. When I go in now, it's interesting. I'm a PhD in nutrition. I'm also a naturopathic doctor, but in the state of Florida, I can't tell you that. But the reality is, when I go in, I think I'd really speak more about philosophy than anything else, because I've learned over my 54 years of doing this that you need inspiration to make the transformation. And then you're going to learn practical things like how to do this at home. You're going to learn movement and exercise. There's 40 to 50 hours a week available of classes. And what differentiates us from every other center I know on the planet Earth, and there's many nice centers, is that when you leave here, you know how to do this. You don't just sit around and get rubbed and happy and lose weight and gain happiness. You're learning so that you can continue this at home. Our objective is to change the human race one person at a time. And we've had hundreds of thousands of people who have been through here in the last 70 years. So it's not as this is new or small. We have 60 acres we're on. And just today, so that you know this, we have a gentleman in China at the most advanced biofrequency medicine conference ever held. Why? Because we want to know the latest technology, what's happening this year and 10 years from now, and we're bringing it in. So I think there is no box, but we think out of the box. Yes.
I noticed that there were people who were coming because they were diagnosed with a disease, and there were people who said they were cancer-free now, but they would love to come back again and again. And I even met some every year because we love it, and we are gifting ourselves with a healthy vacation.
It's rather than going on a cruise or going to a hotel and getting sick and eating and drinking, people come here to leave. It's funny, 2 weekends ago, I was at a conference in Naples. And don't you know, there was a couple there that came to us exactly 10 years ago for their honeymoon. We've had people come here and have their honeymoon. They came for their honeymoon. And they said, what a great, and they said to the whole group we were in, it's the best thing we could ever do because we started fresh. We really bonded. We got together. They saw the psychotherapist. They listened to classes 40 hours a week. And they felt, wow, what a great start we have. Now we're on the same path together with it. We have had people come here and actually had babies on the campus. And it's the water births. So we facilitate that. That's not a common thing. We've had it twice in 70 years. We've had people get married here. So we like to think of ourselves as a future village for people who have advanced progressive ways of thinking about life. And so we attract those people and they feel they found their tribe. I know that the people that come here feel like they're part of my tribe, that's for sure. I think it's wonderful that we've gotten to know one another. And it's so beautiful that you come from a place where your mom and dad were both gifted research scientists. And because of this evil, mentally sick system we have that's more about money than it is about healing and health today, they were persecuted for being good human beings. And it's rare that I meet children, even though they have spectacular, wonderful parents like you, that carry that legacy on. I think our work together symbiotically is wonderful because it fits perfectly in here. It's exactly what we've been doing since 1956. And this is an example of what we do. When we find something that's appropriate and works, we go with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you tell people where is Hippocrates, how to get there, how to reach you, how to register for a stay?
We have a web presence. You can I better spell it because this is a hard word unless you're Greek. So it's Hippocrates, HIPPOCRATES, Hippocrates Wellness. And you could also look up Hippocrates Health Institute, but that will bring you to our website that has a lot of different things. It is our magazine we've been publishing now for 45 years. And every January 1st, we have a wellness issue, recovery issue, that we have hundreds of people a year that bring about recoveries. That's a fact. Hundreds of people. We have to pick 20 or 30 that we write about. It's one of the hardest jobs I have every year. Who do we delete? No. This year we put a lady that came here with tongue cancer that went to her lung. They said she was going to die. She was well in 6 months. These are the things. People who were crippled in wheelchairs with Parkinson's disease, and people who come here to stay healthy and young. So the top tennis players in the world, both males and females, are on this program. Top athletes. The Hollywood set sends their people here to get in shape for movies. This is the come-to place for that. And people also come here who are normal, average people who save their pennies and come here. So it's not just for rich and elitist people, but this is for every human being who wants to move forward. And they can get on Hippocrates Institute or Hippocrates Wellness org. We're a nonprofit. So it's not .com, it's .org, O-R-G.
And what is the average length of a stay?
The stay you really want to aspire to come to is called a Life Transformation Program. And that's 21 days, because it takes 21 days to change the mind. But we've learned over the decades the biochemistry of the body. And breaking your habits, changing your mindset, educating yourself, that's how you go home and continue this. A week is fun, but it's not going to make transformation. It's like putting your pinky into the water and saying, oh, it's a little too cold for you.
Thank you so very much.
Welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Clement. And thank you for all the audience that has watched this far. This is the Beljanski Cancer Talk Show, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.